Okay, great. So welcome everyone. My name is Nikki Martin, and I am the director of the LEARNS project and also of some key mentoring and national service initiatives here at the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory in Portland, Oregon. LEARNS is funded by the Corporation for National and Community Service as a training and technical assistance provider for any programs serving youth, whether you're mentoring, tutoring, out-of-school time, or some combination of those. And we'll ask you a little bit more about who you are and what kind of program you're in a little bit later on. We've been funded to do this work for just about 10 years, and I have my whole team here with me today, and part of the purpose of this webinar, and we'll talk about the objectives in just a second here, hopefully, Amy, can you? We'll get the objectives up on your screen. But the purpose of this webinar is to just give you a real quick presentation and tour of the resources that the corporation has made available to you all through us. If you're new in your positions, you might not be aware of them. And then give you a chance to ask us any questions that you might have. And of course, we'll let you know how to follow up with us if you have specific individual questions. We're also really lucky here at the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory to be the home of a few other exciting projects: the National Mentoring Center, the U.S. Department of Education Mentoring Resource Center, and another national service initiative called Encore, all of which can potentially be very helpful resources to you. So we'll include those items in our little web tour that we'll do as part of this webinar as well. So you should see on your screen right now the objectives today. They're to LEARN staff, and we'll highlight some key resources and mostly just let you know where to go to find the things that you need, since people have pretty different needs. Find out how to get more help from us should you need it, and learn about other ways that we can provide services to help you do your job better. And we'll also ask you, as part of our follow-up survey to this webinar, about future topics that may be of interest to you in more of these kind of online trainings that you can do without having to travel or take too much of your time. Before we launch, I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping. It sounds like everyone has successfully muted your phones. If you have not, one way that you can do it, I think most people have a mute button, or one universal method is *6, but there's also a built-in feature on WebEx that allows you to do it. If you put your cursor on your name on the participant panel, you should be able to right-click and click mute to mute your phone. It seems to me, oh good, we got someone else who just did it successfully. So it seems to me like we don't have any background noise, and if that becomes an issue, we'll see if anyone needs help muting their phone. You do have to remember, if you want to ask a question, to unmute, but there's another way to let us know if you have a question, and that's to raise your hand. And at the bottom of your participant panel, you can see that there's a little hand icon. If you click on that, and Eric Stiefvater just did it to demonstrate, he's another member of our team here, we'll know that you have a question, and we'll pause at the next good moment and make sure to answer it. So does anyone having trouble seeing the hand icon? Okay, and if it doesn't work for you, or if you happen to be on the phone and not logged into WebEx, just unmute yourself and holler, and we'll answer your questions at any time. So like I said, we'll take questions throughout, and at the end we'll have time for questions. We'll also send you, as I alluded earlier, a follow-up survey. It'll be very, very short. We know you're busy, but we want to get your feedback on this webinar and future webinars, and we really take it seriously and use it to try and improve what we do. We'll also send you any follow-up documents. There will be one resource we'll share toward the end where you can, a form you can fill out to get some free stuff. So we'll be sure and send you that with the evaluation survey as well. So I'm going to ask Amy to go to the next slide. And before we introduce ourselves to you, we want to learn a little bit about who you are. So we're going to try a feature of the webinar, the whiteboard. Hopefully everyone sees it on your screen right now. I want to do a little bit of an icebreaker to learn a little bit about who you are. And I think everyone online joined this webinar. Oh, good. Someone's already playing around with it. Joined this webinar because it was targeted at new staff who may be looking for resources to help you as you start a new role running an AmeriCorps youth program. So I wanted to ask you to all close your eyes and think back to your first week in this new position, which may have been a couple months ago. Maybe this is your first week in your position. And think about how you felt. Maybe it was overwhelming, maybe it was exciting, maybe you were reviewing this grant that you're now responsible for that someone else wrote and you don't even understand what it's promising to do. Take a minute to think about that and then use the whiteboard feature, which someone already started to do. You can use it a couple ways. There's some icons on the top. You can use the one that looks like a kind of like a pen or a pencil, and you can draw a picture of what that felt like, or you can click on the T for text, which will let you type a phrase or some keywords about what that felt like. So take a moment and then go ahead and put something out on the whiteboard. Okay, some people are getting the hang of it. All right, we'll give folks another moment to finish up, and then we'll see. I might invite a couple people to talk about what they put out there. If you want, you can take your pointer, which is the arrow tool, and Amy's going to model it, and put it next to your drawing or your phrase so we'll know whose is whose. Okay, and you might need to unmute at this point, but we'll see if anyone wants to share a little bit. I see Christina, you had a help face, too many things to do, not enough time to do it. Do you want to share anything about that or add anything to that feeling?
Yeah, well, the first week that we started, it was in November.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a volunteer coordinator, but I was doing the tasks before the program even started, so I was kind of in charge of starting the program, but I had to be in it as well. I don't know if I explained myself.
Uh-huh. You were volunteering yourself and coordinating volunteers. Am I understanding you right?
Yeah, so I was at a different position, but I was going to start the volunteer coordinator position, but I had started organizing it before I even actually took the part.
Mm-hmm. So there was way too much going on. How about someone who had a happy face? Nancy, do you want to say anything about your drawing?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, yeah. Well, I had already also worked for a Parks and Rec department, so I had worked on staff that summer, and so that I kind of knew what the site was like and what I was supposed to be doing. I'm starting a brand new program, so I was just really excited to kind of start doing all that stuff and organize all my things and get inside and start. I don't know, it was just an exciting time. I really liked my coworkers, and it was a lot of fun.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think often it's a mixed time. We feel super overwhelmed and nervous about stuff, but also it's exciting to be embarking on something new. How about, Brittany, do you want to say anything about your drawing?
Sure. Well, I started at my organization in a different position before I I was a Vista, so I kind of knew a little bit about it, but I was really nervous that, you know, I wouldn't do as good of a job in the new position, or that I wouldn't do what they wanted.
Okay, thanks. How about Margaret? We've just got one more, so let's hear from everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Like many of you talking, I had worked for the organization before as a member, and now I recently came back as a field coordinator for our program. And fortunately, I work right under the program director, and she's just really been teaching me a lot and guiding me a lot, so it's been really exciting.
Great. So hence the exclamation point.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We thought that was kind of a fun, sort of colorful way to get a sense of where everyone's at, and it sounds like it also kind of built up a lot of commonalities among the folks on the phone. Well, we want to just real quickly introduce yourselves to us. What we mostly want to do is show you how to get some resources that might make your job easier, but back in the day, we used to get out and do lots of face-to-face training around the country and get to interact with lots of you, and as you know, there's less of that going on in the world of the corporation right now, so we thought it might help to see our faces and hear a little bit about each of us, because what we really want you to do is feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling us whenever you need help, or we might be able to help you find a resource. So just very quickly, we're going to introduce ourselves. I already said I'm Nikki Martin, and I coordinate the LEARNS project. I have been here at the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory and with LEARNS for about 8 years, since 2000, and in that time I've been working with tutoring and mentoring national service programs, and also some other programs. When I first came on board here, I was working primarily in school to work and youth development type activities, and then I moved into the national service realm from that. I've also played a role in an exciting project called the National Partnership for Quality After School Learning, which had a nice overlap with LEARNS and helped develop some materials for out-of-school time programs and volunteers, materials that volunteers and staff could use in those kind of settings. In my previous life, before I came to Norrell, I worked mostly with immigrant and refugee populations in a few different capacities. I was an ESL instructor in both university settings and also in community-based settings, and in the latter I did a lot of kind of different pinch hitting, working with young adults, helping coordinating housing and other services, and basically just every other need that came up that wasn't necessarily in my job description. So that's a little bit about me, and I want to introduce the other members of our team who are with us here today, and I'm going to start with Eric Seevater.
Great, thanks, Nikki. I've been here at the LEARNS project for about 2 years, and cumulatively I have about 8 years of experience in education and training. And I got my start, as it sounds like some of you have, in the national service world. After college, I served as a VISTA member in Boston, and then afterwards worked as a recruiter for the Corporation for National and Community Service in New England. I also did some work as a technology trainer and education consultant, and earned a master's degree in education before returning home to Oregon to join the LEARNS team. And I work here at LEARNS to develop and deliver training sessions and materials for our youth-focused national service programs, with an eye on finding ways to adapt them or create them for delivery on the web or at a distance. I also monitor the LEARNS 1-800 number, which is in the slides and which we'll talk about a little bit later. So if you call the 1-800 number, I'll probably be the first person you speak to. And I'll turn it over to Amy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Kanata, and I have to apologize. I have a little bit of a cold, so not the best voice today. I've been working with the LEARNS project for almost 2 years now. But I've been lucky in that I've been working here at Northwest Regional Educational Lab for about 7 years, focusing primarily on adult-to-youth mentoring. So a lot of the work that I do for LEARNS focuses on that type of mentoring, as well as peer-to-peer mentoring and other mentoring models. I've been very lucky. I've had the chance to work with a lot of different projects nationally. both with the National Mentoring Center and the Mentoring Resource Center, and I'll talk a lot more about those two different projects later on. But it's really been helpful for me to kind of see what's happening nationally in the mentoring field and to kind of understand what people are having great success with and what people are also struggling with across the board. I also did volunteer work and direct service early on in a homeless youth shelter and drop-in center, and so that really kind of gave me the perspective of direct service with teens, as well as some research around psychology and decision-making. So hopefully I can bring some of that information to bear. Like Eric, I monitor one of our Learn services. So if you email learns@Norrell, I'm the person most likely that will answer you, and again, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But anyway, it's great to have you all, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Nikki.
Thanks, Amy. I want to do something. I was going to do this a little bit later, but I think it would be helpful to do it up front. I'm going to ask you to use your raise hands icon, and we've all been talking about a bunch of different content areas, mentoring, tutoring, out-of-school time, and I want to get a sense of where everybody on the phone is in terms of your programming. So I'm going to ask you, if you would primarily describe your program as a mentoring program, can you raise your hand using the icon? Okay, I don't see any. Oh, we see, okay, a couple folks with mentoring. How about if you would primarily describe it as tutoring? Okay, so we've got a bunch of folks in the tutoring category, about 4. Anyone who would say you're primarily an out-of-school time program? Okay. Anyone who is some combination of all of the above or a general youth development program? Okay. All right, so as we suspected, we've got a pretty good mix within this particular group, a little bit heavier on the tutoring side. So that's helpful. It looks like someone else just joined us. Amanda, did you manage to get on the phone as well? Okay, well, let's see. Hopefully she'll be able to call in. Okay, so thank you. That's helpful to get a sense of who our audience is. Now, just a couple super quick slides, and then we want to show you some resources, which is why you came. These are just the areas you've already heard us talk about that we offer expertise in. And if you have some kind of programming issue or area that you feel, gosh, it doesn't really fit in any of those categories, but we do serve youth, you should get in touch with us anyway. You know, we use those kind of big containers because they're helpful, but we can definitely help you, if we can't provide them, find the resources you need in any type of programming that's focused on youth. Some of the services we offer, online, print, and video-based training materials, and a little bit later we're going to show you a form that you can, you should be able to save and print it directly from this webinar, and if that doesn't work, we're going to email it to you too, where you can order some of these materials, and we'll show you some of those a little bit later on. Help with training design, including sample curriculum and handouts. If you need to provide training to members or volunteers in your program, but you're not necessarily trained as an educator, or you don't feel super confident about what to include, you can run your agendas by us and we'll give you feedback. I just did that with a program in Arizona this morning. We also have, for some really commonly requested topics, ready to go session outlines that we can share with you, as well as handouts. So just things to make your life easier as trainers. Instructional tools and activities for programming. We've also got, in addition to tools that you can use to train your members and volunteers, we've also got tools that they can use with kids, and we'll show you some of those in a moment as well. We have an online monograph that comes out 3 times a year. Some of you may have heard of it. It's up to now has been called The Tutor, And because of a request from the corporation, we've recently chosen a new name, Youth Impact, and it's going to be online only now. So all of you who signed up will get an email when the first issue is ready to go, and we're hoping that'll be sometime in the next several weeks. So that usually has really hands-on, ready-to-implement strategies that you can use in your programs, either as a program manager or to pass to your volunteers. Other program management publications and tools, for everything from marketing guides to help with recruitment, and we're going to show you some of those. And then this last category is kind of the catch-all. If you need help finding something, you're not sure what it is, if you just want to talk through an issue that you're having, just give us a call, and if we can't help you, we can usually find somebody who can. Okay, we're going to now take a look at some of our resources on the web, and I'm going to hopefully share my web browser with you. And we're going to start with the Resource Center. Hopefully by now, all of you, we didn't poll you about how new is to you. Some of you started in the fall, some of you maybe more recently, but hopefully you've all discovered the Resource Center by now. And this link is in your slides that you received or can download as part of this presentation, so don't worry about copying down all these long URLs. The Resource Center is funded by the corporation to gather key tools that can help you do your job better, and there's a wealth of information here. We're going to focus just on the Learn-specific, the youth-specific portions of the Resource Center. So I want to show you a few things here. These highlighted resources are the things you might use the most frequently. The first one is our webinar page. And we do webinars on a range of topics. Usually they're more focused on a specific skill or activity like recruitment, building literacy, matching, screening, and once we do them, we post them here. That's why we're recording this webinar. And they're available for folks who maybe weren't able to participate the first time around. We include audio files, transcripts to make sure that they're accessible, and also PDFs of the slide presentation. We're now using a new presentation platform, so starting with this one, they may look a little bit different, but they're still going to be available here in some form. So if you check back here frequently, you might find new things that you can use as training on your own time. I mentioned earlier training videos. The next thing I'm going to show you, we've got a few different videos available, and they're all listed and described here. Hopefully you're seeing this page right now. The most recent one is Beyond the Right Answer, Effective Homework Help. So I think for some of you doing tutoring and out of school time, this might be particularly helpful if homework help is a part of that. Also for some of the programs that identify themselves as mentoring, we're seeing more and more that academic mentoring homework help piece is becoming a part of school-based programs. So there's useful stuff in there. And then there's others you can explore on this page. I won't go into all of them, but you can check them out and see if they'll be helpful, and they'll also be, you'll be able to order them on the resource form that we're going to share with you. Here is the monograph I mentioned, formerly called The Tutor. Soon this page will also say Youth Impact. But you can see there's a ton of different articles here on a range of topics. And they all have we try and keep them really useful with hands-on strategies. A lot of programs like to use these and build in-service trainings around them that are focused on a specific topic, and they pull out a handful of strategies or give them to members as just a reading material. And if you ever want to take one of these and turn it into an in-service training, we can help you build that agenda. So say here's a topic, reading aloud to build comprehension. Hopefully you see me pointing at this one. This has some real specific strategies that tutors can do with kids. You could also use this in an out-of-school time setting or in a mentoring setting because it is focused on just reading to and with kids. And we could, help you turn that into a training for your members. Okay, one more piece that I want to show you. I'm going to go to a different website. This is also linked to from the Resource Center. I'm just going to a different version of it that's a little bit easier for me to use, but you can get to it right there on that page. This is a web-based tutor training, and this is something we designed not to take the place of face-to-face training, but as a supplement. So for all of you who raised your hands that you are in tutoring programs or out of school time, and you're looking for some kind of supplemental training to meet training hours requirements for your members, volunteers, this is set up with 3 different learning pathways that kind of mimic some common situations that we find national service tutors are in. Tutors can follow all paths or just one. There are also some support materials here, a tote bag where they can take resources away. So this is a great resource if you want to find ways to add training and you don't have the resources to do a lot of face-to-face training. And this is something, too, you could give us a call and we could walk you through it in more detail and give you more information. And then I just want to show you a little bit about how the rest of the site is set up. We're kind of in the major categories: mentoring, tutoring, and out-of-school time. Then program management is sort of a general place where things that are maybe relevant to all programs, not one specific area, go. And we've taken care to put things in multiple places, so if you're not sure, hopefully you'll find it whichever path you follow. I'll just click on one of these to give you a sense of how it's set up, and the most of the people on the call were tutoring programs, so we'll pick tutoring. And you can see there are programming tools divided by kind of main tutoring areas, and then training tools, things that you might use to enhance your training as a staff person, and then also things that you can use to train volunteers. A little bit of performance measurement and some frequently asked questions. So you'll find something akin to that in each one of these categories. Okay, any questions before we show you some other stuff? I know we're racing through a lot. You can raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to hand it over to Amy, who's going to show you some other key resources that are available, and I'm going to pull them up for her. Bear with me one second. Okay, and hand the controls to Amy.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. As I mentioned before, I wanted to show you some of the mentoring resources. And the first site that I want to show you is the National Mentoring Center, our colleagues that are just right next door to us. And kind of the way we've organized the resources on the National Mentoring Center is by project. So I'll show you how we would find those by publication. And you'll see that there's 3 different project names there, one being National Mentoring Center, another one being MRC, which stands for Mentoring Resource Center, and then also LEARNS. So basically from this site you can access materials that we created for all 3 of those projects. So the first one that I want to look at is the National Mentoring Center. So you'll see here that we have a list of all our publications developed at the National Mentoring Center. And just to kind of put this, this project in perspective, most of these resources were created for community-based programs. So if you're working with mentors and mentees that are going out into the community, these are the resources that will really be helpful to you and kind of guide you in that way for community-based. The Foundations of Successful Youth Mentoring is kind of a catch-all that provides all the information that you're going to need for running a mentoring program. This resource, the Generic Policy and Procedure Manual, is a resource that a lot of people have used to set up their mentoring programs. This is a customizable, it's in Word format, and you can use it to pretty much figure out all the little details of your program and to really get everything formalized before you start, or even afterwards if maybe you're a Vista and you've been tasked with kind of revamping the program or strengthening the program. This is a great resource for that. And again, we have both a guidebook that's a sample and also a template in Word format. Of course, this is just an example, so you'll want to check with your board or your attorney for the final policies and procedures, but it is a good way to kind of start with at least some ideas. So there's a lot of publications on this website. We also have, I'd like to point out, a series of technical assistance packets. And these are small booklets that are very user-friendly that you can use for different purposes, from training staff to also train mentors. For example, number 4, called Building Relationships, is very popular with mentors. It's geared towards mentors, and it shows them how to build relationships with their mentees in a supportive way. So this might be something that you use for training, or something that you print out and hand to your new mentors or tutors or others that are working with young people in educational settings. And as you can see, we also have a newsletter. There's lots of stuff here. And then this particular resource, the National Mentoring Center Training Curriculum, is probably of interest to you as new staff. These are actually training curriculum that will teach you how to do a recruitment plan. They'll teach you how to screen mentors, how to make matches. So perhaps you have to train new staff. This would be a good way to do that. Or if you want to learn some techniques on your own, you could go and look at this curriculum for those ideas. So let's go ahead and scroll back up. So I encourage you to just kind of check those out when you get a chance. So I want to go to our next project, which is the Mentoring Resource Center, and just show you that we have everything listed here that we created for that center. I would also like to show you the website, because it does have a separate website as well. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So this is a website that, again, it has more than just the publications listed on it. This site was created for grantees of the U.S. Department of Education Mentoring Program. And so this site primarily focuses on school-based mentoring, or mentoring that has some sort of partnership with a school or education. So if you're working within a school, these materials are going to be very applicable to your setting. And again, you can click on publications and take a look at all the different publications that have been created. The first one, Making the Grade, is a publication that talks about how you partner with schools, how you work within a school environment. And then there's also a big piece in there about incorporating academics into the mentoring relationship, which Nikki mentioned earlier, being that there's a lot of pressure for us to do tutoring or to add some sort of academic achievement to our programs, and this talks about how you do that within a mentoring program. The other resource that I like to point out is there's a guide about screening and background checks for mentors, which also would apply to any volunteer or even program staff as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of different resources here under major publications. We have case studies that are about real-life programs and how they solved problems. And then I wanted to point out the fact sheet series as well, which, again, these are short fact sheets, kind of like our tutor, that you could use in training. Many of them are geared towards program staff. Others, a few, are geared to mentors, such as number 10, which is called Overcoming Relationship Pitfalls. That one was written specifically for mentors. So again, these are some resources that you want to take a look at when you get a chance. One other one that I just want to point out is we also have some customizable pieces in this series as well. First of all, there's a toolkit, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's a marketing toolkit that was created that's basically sample pieces that you can use in your own program for marketing. So there's everything from a brochure, a newsletter. I'll go ahead and show you what the newsletter looks like. And again, as you can see, they are in both Word and PDF, or Quark Express, which is a graphic design program. And you can just look at those, and it provides you a sample. Taking a second here. I guess we don't have a sample. That's okay. So when you get a chance, take a look. Again, it's customizable in Word, or you can also use Quark if you wanted to take this newsletter or a brochure or a PowerPoint and just change that for your program. It's something that provides sample text and, again, a good starting place for your program. There's also a customizable parent handbook that you can use as well, and that one is right here. So as you can see, Guide to Mentoring for Parents and Guardians. So take a look at those when you get a chance. There's quite a few mentoring publications. There's so many that if you are confused, feel free to call me and I can kind of point you in the right direction. And the final thing I want to show is that there is a searchable publication catalog on this site as well that you can search by topic, and that'll help you also find what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Eric, who's going to talk a little more about the Encore project.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And along the lines of resources that you can download and adapt and put to use in your programs, we're pleased to have access to this collection of resources called Encore that were developed by our colleagues here at our parent organization. And these are resources for programs with AmeriCorps and VISTA members, and the information here is focused on member development. And this information is, or this site is available from the Resource Center, and we'll provide a direct link to it for you. And you can see it with the tabs across the top. It provides major steps of the member development and management life cycle, from recruitment to orientation to supervising members to training them, and then finally helping members with the transition. And what is unique about these resources is that they were collected from and vetted by veteran staff members of AmeriCorps and VISTA programs. We received countless requests from VISTA supervisors, AmeriCorps program coordinators, and other staff in the field looking for resources that were specific to what they were trying to do with their national service members. And this grew out of that. We recruited veteran staff to submit templates and documents that they had developed, and then also review what others had submitted to make sure that they were directly applicable to the management of national service members. So just to show you how this looks, I'm just going into the recruiting tab and clicking on recruiting tactics. We know recruitment is a perennial issue and interest for youth serving programs. And as you can see in the format, we'll provide some basic information as well as links to some resources you might already be aware of, such as the AmeriCorps Media Kit, which is available through the corporation, but links to additional topics as well as to resources that you can download. Then you can move sequentially through the materials or kind of click back and forth through each of the tabs to find what you're looking for. I would call your attention to a couple of resources in the transition section, so I'll just click on transition. And this has information that if you are yourself a member, you may find interesting, but also if you're supervising members, you can make available to them and also use it to inform yourself about the member life cycle and sort of what they're going through as they wind down their service and try to figure out what comes next for them. And at the bottom are links to a couple of online tutorials that have been developed recently. What's Next provides information and links and tools to help members think about their service and put their best foot forward as they apply to colleges or apply for jobs, and how they can cast the wonderful and hopefully wonderful and productive service year they've just completed into what they would like to do in their next job or as they pursue their studies. And then also an online tutorial on the Education Award. We know that members have a lot of questions about the Education Award. Maybe some of you are dealing with this yourselves right now as you have finished your service and are looking to use your Education Award. So in addition to answering some of the common questions, we also provide tips for how to maximize the use of the Education Award. Now, even though this was developed by and for AmeriCorps and VISTA programs primarily, that's not to say that other programs that don't use those national service members can't find value in this. For example, this could be adapted for use with senior corps members or Learn and Serve members, or even for the recruitment and supervision and training of community volunteers. So whatever's here, you're free to download and adapt, and we're happy to have this available. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Nikki, who will wind down the presentation for us.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, we're going to try and just really quickly go back to our presentation. I think you need to go to, sorry. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. So we just want to show you real quickly in these slides that you do have the URLs to all of these resources we showed you. You've also got we've got a little bit of information here that just caps the services we provide, and then you've also got, we'll come back to that in a second, our direct contact information. I want to pause for a second and see if folks had their hands up, had any questions. Okay. So just to recap, in addition to all these resources that you can find on the web, we can do any kind of one-on-one in-depth help that you need, training design, sample curriculum, and also referrals to other kinds of help. I want to go ahead and show you one last piece. Okay, you should be hopefully seeing now Learn's resource request form, and you'll receive this in an email with your follow-up survey. You should also be able to directly on your computer now save and print, but if you can't do that, you'll be receiving it pretty soon after this presentation. If you're interested in the videos you saw or other things related to the various resources you saw, fill this out. Even if you're not sure, I thought I saw some stuff, can you guys follow up with me? You can use this form for that too. Just put a note on it for us, and you can email it back to us. You have all of our contact info, and we'll follow up with you. So at this point, we just want to go ahead and open the floor to any questions that folks might have, or comments, or things, additional things that we might be able to help you with. And you have to unmute your phones, or you can raise your hands. But I think at this point we can just go ahead and do an open conversation if folks want to unmute. Don't see any hands. I'm not hearing any questions. I know we gave folks a lot of information to digest, so I think maybe we'll linger on the phone for a couple more minutes, but I think we'll send you off to digest this information and look through those links, those URLs. And as we all said, if you find things that you want to know more about, that you'd like copies of, have questions, you've got our information, just give us a call or an email, and we'll be happy to help. So good luck to you all, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.